Now we're going to put our layers of newspaper strips and glue paste over our armature to make it really strong and give our cat a skin. Take your first strip of newspaper, dip your fingers into the paste and make sure that the paper strip is saturated or soaking wet with the glue, but not dripping. Attach it onto the base, the armature, and use the tip of your finger to select the next piece. Never grab it with a full hand, or you will end up with all your strips stuck together inside your box. When you layer the second piece over, don't put it next to the first piece. Instead, place it halfway across the piece you placed before. You can even go across pieces that you put down before. This adds extra strength. When your hands have got quite a bit of paste on, you won't need to be dipping quite so much into the container. Really make sure it's wet through but not dripping. When you place it on, massage it down. Try and squish it smooth, get all your air bubbles out and smooth down any stray raw edges. Your paper gets softer as it gets wetter and makes it easier to mold around detail shapes like the ears. Here is one that we have almost finished. And now I'm going to show you the second layer. Your second layer of newspaper is usually made out of a different type of paper. Here I used the paper towel that I stripped in the first video. Another option is plain cream or white newsprint. That is paper that is like newspaper but without the printing, the black printing on it. The reason we use a different colour for our second layer is so that we can see clearly where we have covered the first layer and where we're still missing some pieces. You need at least 2 layers of paper mache over your base for it to be strong enough. 3 is even better. Tissue paper is a lot softer than newspaper, so you will need to take just a little bit more care. But you can easily see when it is saturated or wet through because it almost becomes see-through. Keep massaging it into all the details, all the little gaps. Really get good coverage. Sometimes smaller pieces are better around difficult angles and corners. Lots of overlapping. Pay special attention to the edges to keep them smooth and clean rather than raggedy and rough. Continue with your second layer until you have covered the entire base. Now here I'm going to show you an alternative top layer to painting. If you have some pretty collage paper or craft paper that you would like to use, you can turn that into strips of paper as well, just like we did with the newspaper at the beginning. You might find that you get a variety of prints, but in the same color scheme. It is a good idea, I think, for this project to keep the colors muted and similar to each other rather than a whole range of different bright colors. They might not work quite as well. It kind of gives you a patchwork effect when you're finished. So just as we did with the other paper, immerse this paper in the paste and get it really wet through, and then start working on your base, layering and overlapping the pieces. This paper was a little stiffer than the newspaper and definitely stiffer than the tissue or paper towel, so it needed a little bit more work. When it's wet through, it gets softer and easier to mold to the shape of your base. This will become the final skin, so it really needs to be smoothed down, making sure that none of the edges flap up. Everything is pasted down with the paste. The only thing to go on top of this will be some varnish. So any rough edges or bumps will be visible. Now I used 2 different prints on here. The paper had 2 different patterns on it, and I combined those. And as I put them on, I alternated between the 2. So I would pick up one spotty strip, and then next I would pick up a floral strip, one with flowers on. And so I would alternate in a pattern. And this gave it a really cool patchwork effect. Remember to use the tip of your fingers to pick up the next piece, tip of the one finger preferably, so that you're not dripping paste all over the rest of the strips. You don't want them sticking to each other, you want them loose and ready to use on your sculpture. Continue with this until you have covered the entire sculpture. Going back and checking those edges. Here is our little dog all finished now. We've also added some eyes that we've glued on with a hot glue gun. This is him from the back and from the side again. And here are some pictures of the work made by Year 3 students. These ones have been painted. Acrylic paint finish or tempera paint finish is fine. Some extra detail added in with a small brush, and a fluffy pom-pom for a tail on this rabbit on the left. We have even got some unicorns and a snake. Again, showing the different finish media. There we go.